Well, what's the distinction that separates us from others who believe he exists? Our choices that demonstrate what we actually believe. Do we believe in what the church has described him to be, or do we believe what the book has described him to be? Not the same being. I mean, literally it is the same being, but it doesn't look like the same being. The way they describe Yeshua is not the way we understand Yeshua. Or should I say the way they describe Jesus is not the way we understand Yeshua. Because they use him to undermine everything we think Yeshua stands for. Like literally, they're opposites. We believe him to be the embodiment and representation of why Torah is so important and what the context of and where it fits into the bigger picture, and they've totally done away with it. They've undermined the entire relationship basis. The basis of the relationship says, those who fear Elohim and work righteousness are accepted by him. That's in the New Testament. But they've ignored all that because they arbitrarily decide what righteousness is, even though we have a definition from Scripture. You know, we have the verse that says, it is righteousness to you, this is in the Old Testament, when you do these commands. It's the definition of righteousness. But yet, the church isn't going to tell you that because they want to disconnect you from all of that. Because the ultimate power behind that whole system is not a good one. It's a false one. People are going to get mad at me for saying that. No, you need to go look it up. You got to understand that there's been a giant, shell game switcheroo on you. And so all of a sudden, the real Messiah gets put under the shells and pops up, and it's a whole different looking thing. Looks like a 60s hippie freak who just says everything's wonderful, do whatever you want. Just be nice to each other. That's not what Messiah was like, okay? Oh yes, he wanted us to love one another. He wanted us to have peace. But he also said, remember the context is right after he said, those who fear Elohim and work righteousness, he's saying this whole description of Yeshua. He literally then describes Yeshua to them and his experience with Yeshua. I mean, it's a very short 4 or 5 verses, but that's the connection. He's connecting Yeshua to those who fear Elohim and do Torah, are Torah observant. You can't get away from that. Let's go to chapter 11. The reason we're skipping the next verse is because I don't want to get into a big debate over what tongue speaking is and whatever comes in the next few verses. So we're skipping that. Because some of you are going to be like, well, why'd you skip those verses? Because I don't want to distract from the point, okay? That's a whole different teaching we'll deal with another time, all right? So, give me patience with that. I want to make sure we're not losing our focus here. The point is that he had that vision because Cornelius first was told he had the vision so that he would understand that people that he thought were unclean or common are not. The difference between people is not their genealogy, it's whether they fear Elohim and work righteousness. That's the distinction. Whether they were Jew or Gentile or whatever their skin color, whatever their gender, whatever, it didn't matter. Do they fear Elohim or are they working righteousness? That's what matters. That's the separator, okay? It said Elohim has no partiality.